As the 1920s and 30s came through, many aspired to be pilots and were influenced by the success of famous pilots such as Amelia Earhart and Charles Lindbergh.
Hello, my name is Benjamin O. Davis Jr. As an African American, it was definitely harder to become a pilot, especially with all of the stereotypes that people made about colored people not being able to learn how to fly planes.
It was especially harder for African Americans to become pilots with the racial stigma surrounding them. The U.S. military was segregated, and it was believed by most of the military that the black soldiers were inferior to the white soldiers in combat. In the late 1930s, when another great war was about to start, Franklin Roosevelt expanded the civilian pilot training program in the country.
Us African Americans didn't know that much about it or weren't interested until black newspapers like the Pittsburgh Courier and the Chicago Defender started to explain why blacks could also be included in the pilot training.
Roosevelt responded by announcing that they will be training black pilots. The training would take place down in the South in Tuskegee Army Airfield down in Alabama, that was founded by Booker T. Washington. Thousands of college undergraduates or graduates came together in Tuskegee.
We were able to form 1,000 pilots and 14,000 crewmen like navigators, mechanics, bombardiers, control tower operators, and etc.
This project was called the Tuskegee Experiment.
Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Well, I was one of the only 13 class aviation cadets. I graduated at West Point College, and I was also the son of General Benjamin O. Davis, which was one of the two black officers in the entire military.
The Tuskegee Experiment gained more publicity when the chief flight instructor, Charles Anderson, took the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt on an aerial tour to take photos and film. The Tuskegee Airmen formed the 99th Pursuit Squadron and were separate from the white because the white pilots did not wish to be integrated.
They had deployed us in North Africa, where the Allies had occupied the area to defend bomber planes. We flew the old P-40 planes, which were much slower and harder to handle compared to our enemy's aircraft.
Their impressive battle had brought more fighter squadrons to join them and battle as one to make this 332nd Fighter Group.
The commander of our squadron was complaining about our performance, so I had to defend my peers in front of the War Department committee.
In 1944, the 19th Squadron was put in Italy instead of going back home.
It was in Italy when we started to prove ourselves as we shot down 12 German planes in that battle. As our groups had congregated, us pilots started flying P-51 Mustangs to escort bombers, which was a big upgrade from our previous aircraft.
For identification purposes, the 332nd Group put on red paint on their tails and were given the nickname Red Tails.
There was a myth about us during and a little bit after the war that we had never lost a bomber that we had escorted.
Although this myth was not true, out of the 200 bombers they had escorted, only 25 of them were shot down, which was way better compared to the second best 46 lost bombers. Over the 2 years of their battling, they managed to slow down 273 German planes while only 66 of the Tuskegee Airmen got killed in World War II. After the war and all their hard work, they went back home yet continued to face racism in America. But they were still an enormous role in President Harry Truman, who issued an order to desegregate the U.S. Armed Forces in 1948.
Just like the good old days. Near, near.